You wake up. The alarm rings. You reach for your phone, scroll for a moment, and drag yourself out of bed. Another day, another loop. Everything looks fine from the outside, but inside, something feels off. Not broken, not ruined, just caged. But here's the twist. Most people never realize the bars are even there. The greatest prison is not made of concrete or steel. It doesn't have guards or fences. It exists entirely in the mind, built from fear, from doubt, from past failures, and voices that told you what you can and cannot be. This is the prison of the average life, the quiet surrender, the invisible trap, and millions walk in it every single day, smiling, nodding, playing their role, never questioning who wrote their script. Before you could speak, before you could think for yourself, the world started building your prison. It started with well-meaning words. Don't do that. It's dangerous. You're not good at that. Be realistic. Get a stable job. That's not how life works. You heard it so often, you didn't question it. You started repeating it to yourself. And like that, your mind became your warden. Fear is not always loud. Sometimes it whispers. It disguises itself as logic. It says, play it safe. It says, later. It says, who do you think you are? But fear has one goal, to keep you still, to keep you small. Because fear feeds on potential. It cannot survive your action. So the world builds this cage, and you decorate it. You hang up your routines. You call it comfort. But deep down, something aches. You know this isn't all there is. You were born with fire. And now you're barely a flicker. That's not okay. And the first step to escape is to admit it. Comfort is a beautiful trap. It's warm. It's soft. It tells you you're safe. But safety is not the same as freedom. And comfort is not the same as fulfillment. You were told that if you get a steady job, a stable routine, and avoid risks, you'll be happy. But that promise was a lie. Because humans weren't built to stay still. We were made to move, to grow, to build, to break, and rebuild. Comfort convinces you that you're okay, even when you're wasting time. It numbs you with entertainment, scrolling, distractions. It convinces you that later is fine, that dreams can wait. But comfort has a cost, and you pay with your purpose. Every time you ignore your calling, you chip away a piece of yourself. Every time you silence your fire, the cage tightens. Not because you're weak, but because you've been lulled to sleep. But here's the truth. The life you want lives on the other side of discomfort. Discomfort is the price of growth. Pain is the tuition of progress. You must choose comfort or greatness. You don't get both. Regret is the shadow that follows a life unlived. You won't regret your failures nearly as much as the chances you never took. You won't remember every success, but you'll remember the silence of not trying. You'll remember the book you didn't write, the move you didn't make, the words you didn't speak. One day, you will look in the mirror and ask, why did I wait so long? Why did I let fear make my choices? Why did I live someone else's life? And that moment will hurt more than any failure ever could. The mirror doesn't lie. It reflects everything you became and everything you could have been. But if you're reading this, if your heart is still beating, you still have time. Regret is not the end. It's a warning. It's a wake-up call. Awareness is the beginning of liberation. The moment you realize that you're in a prison, you stop being a prisoner. Because now you have a choice. You can't escape a trap you don't know you're in. But once you see the pattern, once you feel the walls pressing in, you begin to ask the right questions. Why am I really living like this? Who told me I had to settle? What if I'm capable of far more? And that spark, that tiny flame of awareness, is more powerful than years of pretending everything is okay. Because the truth is, you've always had a voice inside you that whispered, "There's more." You just silenced it to stay safe. You buried it under responsibilities, under distractions, under fear of judgment. But now it's rising again, and you can't ignore it anymore. Awareness doesn't mean everything gets easier. It means you finally stop lying to yourself. It means you're ready to face the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it is. Because discomfort is not your enemy. Denial is. Every revolution starts inside. You don't change your life by waiting. You change it by rebelling against fear, against limits, against the version of you that accepted less. The rebellion begins with a single word: enough. Enough of waiting for permission. Enough of blaming circumstances. Enough of shrinking to fit in. There's a stronger version of you screaming to be set free. One that doesn't ask, "Can I?" but says, "Watch me." You don't need more motivation. You need a decision. To rise, to fight, to become. Every moment you hesitate, the cage gets stronger. But every step you take, no matter how small, starts breaking the bars. This isn't about burning down your whole life overnight. It's about choosing to live deliberately, one bold choice at a time. You are not a victim of your story. You are the author. Write something worth reading. Your life is a reflection of your patterns, not your potential, not your dreams, not your worth, just your patterns. If you wake up every day and repeat the same thoughts, the same habits, the same choices, how can you expect a different result? The truth is, you're not stuck. You're just committed to a pattern that no longer serves you. And that pattern isn't broken by accident. It's broken by intention. If you want to change your future, change your mornings. If you want to grow stronger, change what you consume. If you want to find purpose, change who you listen to. Pattern breaking is uncomfortable. It threatens the old you, because change feels like death to the ego that clings to familiarity. But what's more painful? The discomfort of growth, or the agony of regret. You don't need a massive leap. You need a shift. Small hinges swing big doors. So disrupt your autopilot. Wake up earlier. Turn off the noise. Start doing things that scare you. Because if it scares you, it's probably where the growth lives. Don't try to escape your life. Transform it, one choice at a time. Freedom isn't free. It costs everything that keeps you small. To be free, you must let go of the lies you tell yourself. You must walk away from comfort, disguised as security. You must risk judgment, failure, even loneliness. But the alternative? Living a life that was never truly yours. You can't serve two masters, safety and significance. You must choose. Freedom demands courage. It demands action. And most of all, it demands sacrifice. But what you sacrifice is not who you are. It's who you're not anymore. The world will try to convince you to play small. Because small people are easier to manage, easier to predict. But you weren't born to blend in. You were born to build, to rise, to stand for something. And freedom, the real kind, only comes when you stop asking for it and start claiming it. You've been living by a script you didn't write. Maybe it came from your parents, maybe from school, religion, culture, trauma. Somewhere along the way, someone handed you a story, and you believed it. It told you what was possible, what was acceptable, who you could be. But that story was never yours. It was built to keep you in line, to keep you safe, to keep you small. And now, it's time to burn it, because you are not your past. You are not your pain. You are not the version of yourself that others expect you to be. You are possibility. You are permission. You are proof that a new story can begin at any time, if you're brave enough to write it. So, what do you want? No, really. What do you really want if no one was watching? Who would you become if you stopped apologizing for being ambitious? What life would you live if fear had no voice? You don't need another degree. You don't need to wait until Monday. You need to pick up the pen and start rewriting your life. One choice, one chapter, one day at a time. And if the world tells you you've changed, you say, yes, I finally have. The fire is where transformation happens. Not in the comfort zone, not in the applause. In the fire, where the old you burns and the real you is forged. Most people run from the fire. You must run toward it, because inside the fire is your truth, your courage, your calling. Don't pray for it to be easy. Pray for the strength to endure. Because if you want a life that's uncommon, you'll need to do what's uncommon. The fire is where fear dies, where excuses are incinerated, where you learn that pain isn't your enemy, it's your teacher. And every time you step into the fire, you emerge changed, stronger, clearer, unstoppable.